Good evening. Today we have a slight surprise stream which hasn't been announced or anything because I got a surprise PDF release today. I'm sure I'm not the only one. There are definitely some more people who got this link, and we've got the Walking Dead Universe PDF for the role-playing core rules. So I think actually the full title of this game is The Walking Dead Universe, but I'm not going to call it that. I'm just going to call it The Walking Dead RPG. Apologies for AMC. So, what is this game about? Well, this game is, as you might know, something to do with the TV series, less so with the comic book series. It's the next Year Zero installment, so I'm quite keen to have a look at it. Especially seeing as it has a big element of base building, and that's something I do enjoy. So hopefully we'll have a look at that. It also has a solo mode. So I got this. I had a look through for an hour or so, around a half. So I'm by no means an expert on it. I can't tell you everything, but please, if you have questions in the chat, put them in the chat or put them in the comments afterwards. But yeah, what have we got? We've got some real goodness here. We've got 160 pages of this PDF, which looks pretty sweet. There are some things which are not done yet, and I have to remind everybody that this is only the beta, hence in big letters beta, yeah? So don't think this is the final one. And if you want to start moaning, then wait until you get the final version. So, the key here is, let me just turn down the music a little bit, is that we have really exceptional graphics again. You look at the chapter splashes here, splash pages, look at the artwork. I think this is really cool. The credits are not in here yet, so I can't actually fully confirm who made the who made the pictures. And before I say something wrong, I'm not going to say anything at all. But yeah, so we have all the different chapters in here. We've got Home and Away, which is all about exploration and base building. We've got Running the Game. We've got one location. But let me have a quick look at some of the things that might be of interest to you. And as I said, if you want more, then please put it in the chat. So, the world of the dead is basically, we have an outbreak. Everybody, it says in the rule, really everybody gets infected with a virus, which they call the wildfire virus. And basically, if you die one way or another, you will turn into a walker or whatever else they call them, Nashers and so on, in the series. Now, I have to say, I watched the original The Walking Dead up till Negan, and then I had enough of it, and I started watching the other one, Fear the Living Dead, and quite enjoyed that. And I haven't watched the other one, which is the other place. Can't remember what it's called. So the world is basically quite grim, and for that actually it has some echoes for me of Twilight. So basically, society, civilization has ended. You have to rebuild it. You're out on your own. You're trying to survive. And for me, just like the TV series, the interesting thing is not necessarily fighting all the walkers. The interesting thing is how the humans interact with it and how the human drama develops against the backdrop of this. That's actually why I backed this in the end. Because I didn't just want another Twilight 2000. Twilight 2000 I bought, I backed, and then pretty much sold right away. So you will see here some description of the world. You'll see here some description of the threats, and you always have these little inserts here, which they call the Dear Departed monologues. And they actually can be, as an optional rule, be a rules element, a mechanical element, whereby if you have somebody, a player, start off with one of these monologues at a session, then you can give them some extra experience points. And why not? You can actually roll them. So you can have up to 6, in theory, experience points for one of those. Might be a bit overpowered. So it talks about how people are probably the biggest other survivors, that is the biggest threat, rather than the walkers. And then we actually get straight into the player characters. Now, there are archetypes, and I can show you those in a minute, but the archetypes are basically what you did before the outbreak. So they have role to play, and they might give you some initial skill set, but there's not like a class system. So you can basically skill or develop whatever you want to. That's quite important on this game. So, for example, you start off with, we'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it a bit better at home. Typical steps. Yeah, we know these. There might be life path. I'm not sure there's going to be a life path system might be. So you choose an archetype, choose a name, choose an issue. Now, issues are basically things that like personal problems, dark secrets, along those lines, which you can make a role-playing hook from. Choose your drive, what keeps you going, what's your motivation, other games call it. You distribute points amongst attributes and skills, and they are very much like we know from your Zero engine. So your attributes go from 1 to 5, and your skills from 0 to 5. There's a talent, starting talent you pick, and there's basically a set of, I think, 3 talents for each archetype to start off with, and then there are general talents you can pick from. Choose your gear. Define the relationship to the other PCs. Now, this is actually quite important in this one because they have this concept of anchors. So you are not just the group of player characters, you are existing in a community. And this community, you develop some NPCs together as well. And one of the PCs and one of the NPCs is going to be an anchor for you. And anchors are basically people keeping you sane. So you might know this as Pillars of Sanity from, for example, Trail of Cthulhu, or similar. I think Call of Cthulhu's got something similar as well. And the idea here is that if you are stressed and if you're distressed, you can spend some time with your anchors to calm down, to chill, to relax, and improve that again. If you lose one anchor because they get killed, that's pretty bad for you, though, because that can drive you over the edge. So it's definitely a little bit of role-playing hook, but also a mechanical thing that can actually really bite you. Yeah, there are also different modes. I should mention that before, but there's a survival mode where you build little scenarios and you say, okay, here's a survival map and here's a situation and here's your objective, and you play it out like a skirmish game almost. Or there's a campaign mode, which is the normal one. So, core aspects. The issue I discussed already, the drive I discussed already. The attributes are, this is very much standard year 0. You've got strength, agility, wits, and empathy. So that's no surprise to anybody. You can also start with scars, which are basically trauma or physical or mental trauma. Could be something like this. You then get skills, and I'll show you the skill list briefly. So we have 12 skills. We've got 3 skills, 3 for each attribute. So it's 4 attributes, total of 12. So strength, agility, wits, empathy are our attributes. And the skills are listed here. So we've got close combat, endure, force, might, strength, whatever you want to call it, mobility, how quick you are, ranged combat, stealth, scout, survival, tech, leadership, manipulation, medicine. So it's not quite the same as, for instance, Alien, but it's the same sort of distribution of skills to attributes. You then get talents, and we know those already from a lot of other games from year 0. So those are the tricks of the trade. Again, very similar. What's new, unless you compare it really to something like Vaesen, is health points. So basically, we don't really have different hit points for different people. Instead, everybody's got health of 3. There are 3 statuses, if you like. And it says here, it makes it sound like you can be unharmed, bruised, or battered. Or, after you're those, you're health 0, you're broken. So let's count this. If you are injured once or take 1 hit, you're bruised. If you take 2, you're battered. If you take 3, you're broken. So don't think it's 4 levels of being injured. It's 1 of being healthy and 3 of being injured. And the 3rd one is broken. So it's not a lot of health that you have to play with. Now, some attacks only cause 1 damage. Some cause 2. Some can actually cause 3 right away. And there is some armor in this game. And it is rollable armor, like in Coriolis, for example. So you have an armor rating, and then you have to roll the number of dice and see whether it protects you or not. So I guess it does create a little bit of extra tension in it because you don't know. You can't just rely on your armor and say, this walker will only cause 1 damage. Can't get through my armor. So I guess that's why they kept that. Right. Another interesting mechanic is this handle your fear. So when you have things that are pushing you beyond your limit, and there's a little list, but it might just be the GM telling you, these breaking points, then you roll wits or empathy die, and if you have an anchor who's still alive and on your side, so you haven't annoyed them too much, then basically you roll your number of dice. Let's say my wits is 4, I've got an anchor with me, 6 dice, and then basically I have to have a success. With the 6 dice, that means 1 6 is enough. If If I fail the roll, then I'm overwhelmed by fear, and then you roll on the overwhelmed table, which is over here. Very simple, small table, and here are the sort of things that can happen. So either you lose your drive, you lose your motivation, you have to find a new one, you become shattered, which is disillusioned and sort of disheartened and so on, and your issue can come to the fore when that happens. Or your issue is changed, or you gain another issue on top of it. So, the sort of thing you do when you're shattered. I won't read the whole book, don't worry. So you may have to spend a bit of time in, let's say, maintaining your anchors to protect against this, or building strong relationships, making sure that they are good. And that is all done via special scenes that you can play. So let's have another look. If you have questions, guys, and please put them in the chat. There is gear. Gear can give you a bonus as well, but it's not like Forbidden Lands where you have gear dice, which is separate. You just basically roll one dice pool, and there's only one color that you need different, and that's stress. So this game will have a stress mechanic, and the stress mechanic basically works very much like Alien, I reckon. So if you roll a 1, you mess up. That's what they call it. So, for example, you roll 4 dice, and you've got a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 6. You still succeed with a 6, assuming you only need 1 6. But you also mess up. And messing up might mean that your threat level goes up. So the threat level is something that goes from 0 to 6. And the threat level basically indicates the amount of noise you make, how much of the environmental threat you are attracting, things like that. So I'll have a closer look at that one to actually see how that works mechanically. Not quite there yet with that. So let's have a look at the archetypes. I think, oh yes, you have a starting haven. So at the beginning, you're not actually out on the road. You have a haven. You've got one of these 3. A bus on a hill, a factory, or a villa. And you can already see what sort of thing a haven makes. And that is, you've got capacity, I guess, how many projects you can build, or how many people can live there, defense value, and the issues that they have, that you have to overcome. Okay. Now, havens, I really look forward to playing with those, I have to say. It's probably the one biggest pull of this game. So, just going through a couple of those. There are quite a few, and the artwork is really nice. So, criminal, the doctor, we've got the farmer, the homemaker, we've got the kid, the nobody, the outcast, and the politician with a big knife in his hand. The preacher and the scientist, and I think there's one more page there. Law enforcer and soldier. And that's it. So let's just have a look at the scientist, why not? So you get a little bit of flavor text at the beginning, and then you basically get told very, very traditional again. Key attributes, key skills, what sort of talents you have at the beginning. So intuition, technobabble, handy, that's the 3 of them. And then you can choose one of these issues. You can understand the world with logic, not emotions. Oh, hello, data. You can have different drives, and you have different gear. Roll d6 3 times. So as almost usual, you don't have to roll. Of course, you can pick, but a lot of times people will just roll on these. And relationships to other characters. I see what you really are, my friend. I'm curious about you. Now, these shouldn't be specific to a class. So you can actually dip into any other classes to see whether there's something that inspires you, that gives you better ideas. Yeah, you are the alpha. Good luck with any of them. So, yeah, questions, guys. Have you got any questions right now? Then please pop them in. Be really good to see some. Skills and talents. I like this one. This is really good. Will she get out of it? Ooh, dear. So, failing tests is in there, and pushing the roll. Of course, you can push the roll. If you push the roll in this game, you gain stress dice. And you gain stress dice very much like an Alien, and they keep building up and up and up until you have time to relax, to de-stress, basically. And there are some other things that can cause stress. For example, if you are not getting enough food and water, you might start off the day, the trip from your haven, stressed. Yeah. Or you're being framed for murder, or you're being broken by damage. Oh, that can create stress as well. So, yeah, it adds insult to injury. As I said, it is very much like one, they call it rolling a walker, will mean that you mess up in some way. But how you mess up, there's a few examples here, is up to the GM and you. So it could be raise the threat level. It could be something like you run out of bullets, you offend somebody, you hurt yourself while doing something, you get lost, or you lose a hostage if you had one of those. Right. Assisting works like usual. Won't have to go into that. If you know any of the year zeros, you basically gain +1 skill roll, every person helping. They don't roll, you just get the extra die, and if there's any adverse consequences of it, any helper will also suffer those. The skills, yeah, they are very much like you would expect them. What I'm interested in, I will have a look at a closer video, is the base building, of course, but also the survival. So how you navigate the wasteland and how you actually survive and find resources. Very much looking forward to finding out about that. Right, we have a few talents here, a few talents there. These are the general talents. I find them quite interesting. But let's just zoom in on, who did we have earlier? I can't remember who we had. A scientist. So, scientist, just as an example. So once per game, intuition, once per game session, you can ask the GM about how things in the game world work. Well, hopefully the GM knows. And are related to get some useful information or suggestions on how to proceed. And they always have these little taglines in italics behind it. Almost sounds like you get badges for that or something. You tackled an impossible challenge. I find them slightly strange. I guess it's something in your background that gave you that. Technobabbler, okay. Or handy. With a little time and some tools, you can repair most things, even if you don't have the right parts. So jury rigging. You also get +2 tech when you repair things as a project. Projects are something you do to basically enhance your haven. And that means you can then build extra things onto it. That reminds me very much of Mutant Year Zero. There's an open invitation here to create your own talents, of course, with a reminder to keep the balance. But here are some general talents. I like the Pet Keeper. Let's zoom in on that one. Yeah, Pet Keeper. You walk with chained living walkers. You get +2 to stealth when you try to get past walkers this way. Name the 2 corpses that walk with you now. So they have to have names. Yeah. And then you chained 2 corpses and brought them with you. As I said, I mean, these italic things don't really do anything for me. Could probably save some word count there if you want any feedback. But of course, it's something that happens in the film and the TV series. Combat and healing, again, I will have to look at that in some greater detail, more time than I had to prepare for that one. But they're basically 2 conflicts modes. One is duels, which is a straight fight ones against the other, and the other one is brawls, which are for bigger fights. I quite like this, what they're trying to do. I haven't played it, of course, but the idea is if you only have 2 players, 2 fighters, you don't do, oh, I attack and they defend, and then you attack and they defend. It's just an opposed roll. So both roll at the same time. And as it says here, if you get the same number as your opponent, then you get damage and the other person gets damage as well. Of course, that isn't quite explained, but of course it doesn't work with the ranges. Yeah. So for example, if I'm trying to shoot at a walker from a distance or at a particular person from a distance, and they don't have a ranged weapon, they can't attack back yet. So you have to, it's sort of hinted at. It says over here somewhere, where is it? If your range is not long enough, you can't attack. I think it says somewhere. Yeah, it just says here. You can attack with close combat. You need to use range combat to attack. So that sort of renders that an unopposed roll, defenseless target. But in principle, you basically get away with fewer rolls this way. And it's risky. Because you can just be hit and that's it. You get damage anyway. Quite look forward to trying that out, because it would actually make the fighting a bit easier, a bit less fiddly. There's rules here for multiple. If there's several fighters on both sides, you can split them into several duels or decide to use the rules for brawls, which are on the next page. There's also something about running away and about cover. Cover I find quite interesting, and that's basically is that if you're behind cover, the opponent has to have one more success, or you basically take 1 success away from their attack and then see whether they still succeeded. So it's not bad cover. You don't have to roll for cover like in Coriolis. That's one of the key points here, I think, to make it easier. Right. Rolls. Rolls are very much more like the traditional fights. So you have different actions. Yeah, taking cover is the first phase, range combat, close combat, movement, first aid, other. So there are phases of the, and you basically with an initiative order, you move through those. Actually not quite sure how initiative works yet. But you have the 6 phases here. So range combat. NPCs state targets first, then the PC select theirs, then they start resolving skill rolls. Okay. Doesn't actually say who really acts first. So several people target each other, then amongst them it doesn't really matter, I suppose, who acts first. What I'm interested to know, and I haven't found that yet, is if you state your targets at the beginning, and then let's say 2 of the PCs aim for the same NPC. If the NPC then is basically wiped out after the first shot, can the second player change his target, or can he not? That will be one of those where you have to say, okay, either we go to the forums or we have to make a house rule. That's certainly on my read-through. It's not clear yet. You can move, you can help each other, you can do other things. As I said, I won't go through the detail. I'll leave you your own joy of reading it. But the armor, as I said down here, different types of armor get you dice. And you have to roll those dice to see whether the armor provides any protection or not. Judging by my Coriolis experience, more often than not, armor is pretty useless. Right. Good old tables, yeah. Looking through the critical injuries tables here on my right-hand side, you will see that it's basically pretty lethal. So if you look at where it's lethal, it's from a 31 onwards. I think that's half the results, isn't it? No, it's more than that. 3/5. 3/5, 60% of the results can be lethal. And you can see the time limits for healing them. You roll a d6. So for crushed leg, for example, before it's lethal, you have a 1d6 hours. That's how I read this, to heal it. And for that, you need basic wound care. Yeah, so 1d6 hours could be 1 hour. It could be a long way away, but hopefully in the field you can do some basic health care. However, if you've got something like ruptured bowel, you could have 1 hour and you need advanced, hey Paul, you need advanced medical care. And if you only have 1 hour to do something like this, because just assuming you rolled a 1, that could go very, very quickly, couldn't it? Yeah, Paul, you know the alien tables better than I do, so I'm sure you know this much better, but it is pretty tough, I think. Yeah, 63, 64, 65, 66, you did. But then you're always supposed to be able to just hop onto an NPC, yeah? And that might work as well then. Yeah, so don't get too attached to your characters, is really what they're saying. Other hazards. Yeah, as usual, explosions, poison, fire will all happen, I'm sure. Happens in all the episodes. There's disease, not so many, but there's some just some examples. There are traps. It's getting hungry and tired. Yeah, as I said, look, gear. You've got some great gear here. Where was it? Got a guitar, which gives you leadership +1. No, I wonder what a ukulele gives you. It's easier to carry. Is that also +1? Right. We've got some nice images here of weapons, vehicles. You find various vehicles and you can basically... You have to hope that that actually goes anywhere. I know that there will be people who know this better than I do, but I read somewhere a while ago that petrol in the petrol tank will break down after, I'm not even sure, like 6 months, and then basically start to become useless. So just as a little thing, if you want to go hyper-realistic on this, research that sort of stuff. Yeah. A little bit of vehicle ramming here, ramming people, ramming walkers or whatever objects, repairing vehicle afterwards. But then it goes into threat levels, and I'll have to read this more carefully, basically clearing out areas and so on. Home and Away will be the chapter where all the base building happens. And yeah, I've skimmed it, no more than that. You have a haven, it has got capacity, it's got defense rating, it can be overrun. when it gets attacked, depending on the defense rating, basically, you've got longer or shorter time, depending how many attack as well. But the important thing is to bring it to life in character creation. So, or actually afterwards. A few things. What does your haven look like? How does it smell? Where do people go to be alone? Where do you sleep? What surrounds the haven? I can see some really cool fan art coming out of this, where people are actually starting to plot out their haven and sketch it out and so on. That could be quite cool if you have a group that really gets into this sort of stuff, because you create this haven together. I think that could be quite inspirational. And because there's always the chance that you might have to hop onto one of the NSCs to continue your story, let's call it that way. I think that is actually tempting here. This is really cool. Right, as I said, I don't have much information on that one. I wanted to show you a short impression of the Atlanta campaign setup. Whether you be in Atlanta and LA or somewhere entirely different, I don't know, maybe in, what is it called? Can't think of it, but I'm trying to. Paul, where did you put your mutant game? Somewhere in Essex, right? Romford, that's what it was. All of that works, I suppose, but you might have to do a bit more homework. So you talk about the challenges, you talk about the NPCs in the haven, you have to create them together. You then have factions around you. Yeah, here they're explained because it's the living, the reborn, the school, and so on. Swarms and locations, where are they based? And then you get a little map. Yeah, these are tables. Where's the map? I know I've seen the map. Is it in the appendix? Lots of roll tables, as you can see, for explorations. Things you can find. There's like a D666 table for scavenging, which I think is very much like Mutant as well. Where's the map of Atlanta? I know I've seen it. Now, there were 2 versions of this PDF already in one day. And this is the second one, and I worked with the first one previously. Have they removed the map from it? Ah, there it is. There's the map. So this, style-wise, is quite similar to Tales from the Loop, I think. But the nice thing about it is this is the sort of map you can find quite easily on the internet and just create for yourself. Yeah. Now, I've not been to Georgia, to Atlanta, but I'm sure people who have been there will recognize it immediately. South Carolina over there, North Carolina, Tennessee. That's as much as I can navigate these maps. Right. So, Romford. Yeah, as I said, Paul, thank you. That's a quick look. The solo play rules are in here already. Yeah, I don't want to say things that are wrong because I think I know who made these, but again, I don't have the credits, so I can't be certain. So you've got theme oracles, you've got messing up oracles, so you've got lots of roll tables, and it uses the progress clocks, yeah, where you have to basically create projects also on faction clocks, rumor clocks, and endgame clocks. So you basically create ways of tracking what's going around with you. You have NPC survivors, of course. You have a relationship grid. We used to do this when we were doing literature classes, that we drew all of this sort of stuff. It's good fun. And I think it can be quite immersive. Now, as a solo player, you are not solo. You still have people around you, as it says here. You have a network of relationships, which should, in theory, also allow you to switch to an NSC, NPC, if you get killed. There's something about structure. There's something about navigating the sectors that you're going through. So it's not a hex map on this one. It's a square map with the sectors. Might change that. And yeah, you've got the rules that you need. Soloing the swarm. That sounds like a recipe for disaster. Yeah, when you're fighting a swarm, you lose to the dead. Roll a d6 and compare to the table on the right. Losing to a swarm. The best advice for encountering a swarm in solo play is to run like hell. Otherwise, the rules about fighting the dead on page work as written with the following changes. Yeah, indeed. Right, and then you've got the character sheets. Yeah, I don't want to really go to the end game yet, but the character sheet looks like this on the right here. So very, very basic. It's not form fillable yet. It reminds me quite a little bit of the Blade Runner one as well. Yeah, this bit in the middle. But yeah, there's nothing surprising on here. You get a sheet for the base, for your haven, current projects, NPC survivors, structures. I'm not quite sure whether this is enough room. If you actually have created your haven, is it really only 4 projects you can have in it? I guess you can always build a little fold-out sheet. And then the challenge sheet, this sheet here with the clocks, with the progress clocks, that's only for the solo mode. Right. Any questions, anybody? Because otherwise I'm going to bring this to a close and have a closer read of this whole thing. Any other questions? Go on. Now, initiative role, as far as I can tell, Paul, is... let me just jump back to this one. The sequence is that you first do the people who attack each other in the brawls, yeah? In the brawls here. So NPCs stay targets first, and the NPCs select theirs. Then start resolving skills rolls. Start with the situations where 2 people fire at each other. So that's an opposed roll, like the basic duel mode. And in the duel mode, because it's an opposed roll, you don't have to know who acts first. Both act. So when done, resolve any situation where someone shoots a person who does not shoot back. That comes after that. But even in this will be the same, basically. If you are just dueling, so if you only have 2 people, you act at the same time, and if one of them is far away and can't attack them, you just act and the other person runs, I guess. So, yeah, and the same in close combat. The skill rolls are resolved starting with the opposed rolls. Cover does not apply for close combat. So I guess you don't actually need more initiative than that. And who, like if you have pairs of people shooting at each other, which of these pairs you resolve first comes up to the player, I guess, and GM maybe, but the players probably. Right. Well, that might make it slightly easier for initiative tracking, I reckon. On Foundry. I wonder how long it will be until we get a Foundry implementation of this. I think none has started. I would be very surprised if somebody had started before the beta PDF had come out. It will probably be after the pretty much final PDF. Yes, and by the way, if you are reading this at home and you've got this at home, and you spot something that is off, like some strange use of English I found, there is a chance to contribute and put some comments in. It says here, in order to make any changes before going to print, we need your feedback no later than the 28th of May. That's less than 2 weeks away. So it'll be quite quick now. And I'm hoping that there might be an updated PDF soon after that. Right, any other questions? No other questions? Well, I have to see whether I can get something together, but I would love to get my head around these rules and maybe do a quick playthrough. I guess 2 weeks' time, something like that, because I'm off for a week. I've got a week's holiday, so I might be doing a 1 or 2 shot or something. So if anybody is keen to give it a go, then you can find me on my Discord or leave a comment here or something like that, yeah? Well, thank you very much for watching, those who have been. And those who will be. I look forward to reading your comments, and leave us a like or maybe even a sub. That would be nice. I just cracked the 700 on my English YouTube channel. It would be nice to have a couple more. So I'll see you soon. For now, however, don't let the walkers bite. Bye-bye.